High in the Andes Mountains of Peru, a really old mystery waits for us. Hidden for many years, the Chavín de Huántar archaeological site is like a whisper from the past. This place, protected by UNESCO, shows us a culture that was around way before the Incas. The Chavín people lived from around 900 to 200 BCE, and they shaped the beliefs of people who came after them. The site's detailed carvings and big buildings are super interesting to archaeologists and historians. The Chavín people didn't have a written language, but they left behind amazing buildings and artwork. Up in the Andes Mountains, Chavín de Huántar was in a good spot where two rivers meet. This helped them trade and talk to other people, so they became important across a big area. The big buildings, made of huge stones, show how good they were at building. The most important part of Chavín de Huántar is the ceremonial center, a place for religious events and meetings. Detailed carvings on the walls show their gods and mythical creatures. These carvings help us understand what they believed. The Chavín culture started around 900 BCE in the Andes Mountains, where Peru is today. This time was a very important part of history in the Andes. The Chavín weren't an empire, but they were still very influential because of their religion and art. They were good farmers and grew corn, potatoes, and quinoa. They also had llamas and alpacas. This meant they had plenty of food, which helped their culture grow. They knew a lot about the stars and used them for farming and religious events. They traded with other people, sharing their art and religious ideas. This helped their culture spread across the region. Their knowledge of the stars, shown in how they built their buildings, made them even more important. Religion was very important to the Chavín. They worshipped many gods that looked like mixes of animals. Jaguars, snakes, and birds are in a lot of their art. These animals represent the power and mystery of the spiritual world. The Chavín showed their beliefs through detailed carvings and sculptures. One amazing example is the lanzón, a big stone carving of a powerful god. It's over 15 feet tall. This carving was probably very important in their religious events. They also used abstract designs that probably had special meanings. These designs, like spirals and shapes, are on their carvings and clothes. They often represented things in nature, like water, wind, or the stars. We don't know everything about Chavín religion, but we think Chavín de Huántar was a place people visited for religious reasons. People came from far away to be part of ceremonies and ask the priests for advice. The priests were probably very powerful because they could talk to the gods. They did special rituals and gave offerings to the gods for good harvests and health. Music and sound were important in their rituals. They had tunnels underground that made special sounds. These sounds probably made the ceremonies feel even more special. They might have also used special plants like the San Pedro cactus to see visions. We found evidence that they used this plant. These visions might have helped them feel closer to the gods. Even though we don't know everything, their religious practices give us clues about their beliefs. Chavín de Huántar shows how smart the Chavín people were at building. They made big stone buildings without any cement. These buildings have survived earthquakes for hundreds of years. The site is like a maze with plazas, temples, and courtyards. One impressive building is the Old Temple, which is shaped like a U. It was built around 1200 BCE. It has a plaza in the middle that you can only reach by a small staircase, making it feel separate from the outside. Inside the Old Temple, there are underground tunnels and rooms, probably used for rituals. These dark spaces, some so small you have to crawl, made the rituals feel even more special. The design of Chavín de Huántar shows how good they were at building and how much they respected nature. The site's design and buildings are still amazing to see today. The amazing buildings at Chavín de Huántar have detailed carvings all over them. These carvings are on the walls, columns, and big stones, showing all sorts of creatures. The jaguar, a strong animal from the Amazon rainforest, is in a lot of their art. It represents strength and power. Snakes, sometimes with people or bird parts, are also common. Birds, especially eagles and hawks, are another important image, maybe connected to the sky. These animal pictures are often mixed together in cool ways, sometimes with people. These scenes probably show rituals, stories, or beliefs that were important to the Chavín. The carvings help us understand their spiritual and cultural beliefs. The Chavín were really good at using light and sound to make their rituals feel special. The narrow hallways and openings in the old temple create interesting shadows, making things mysterious. Sound was also important. The Lanzon gallery was designed to make sounds louder. When water flowed under the Lanzon, it made a loud roaring sound. The Chavín also used water in other ways, like fountains and canals. This water was useful, but it also had meaning. It hid the sounds of rituals and represented life and growth. All of this together made people feel awe and a connection to the supernatural. The Chavín knew how to use our senses to make us feel things and believe things. They were clever at using their environment to make unforgettable experiences. Their use of light, sound, and water shows how smart they were. The Chavín culture, though mostly in the Mosna Huacheca region, was important across a large area of the Andes. This time, called the Chavín Horizon, saw Chavín art, religion, and culture spread far and wide. This happened not by war, but by sharing ideas. Trade was important for spreading knowledge, materials, and art styles. Chavín art started showing up on pottery, cloth, and carvings far away. People also traveled to Chavín for religious reasons, and they brought back new ideas and art. The Chavín's knowledge of the stars and calendar made them even more important. The Chavín had a big impact on later cultures in the Andes. Their art, religion, and how they organized their society influenced the Moche, Nazca, and Inca civilizations. The Chavín's focus on religious leaders and big buildings was important for later cultures. Their art, with its animal designs and detailed carvings, had a lasting impact too. Their skill with making cloth also influenced later Andean textile traditions, which are famous for their beauty. Perhaps most importantly, they developed religious ideas that were used by later Andean religions. Even the Inca, many years later, used some of the Chavín's religious ideas and art. The Chavín also changed how people farmed in the Andes. They were important in domesticating llamas and alpacas, which were used for transportation, wool, and meat. How Chavín society was organized, with religious leaders at the top, also influenced later societies. The idea of a ruler who was also a god, important in Inca society, can be traced back to the Chavín. The Chavín's influence wasn't just about things and religion, it was also about how society worked. The Inca's mita system, where people had to work on public projects, is similar to how the Chavín worked together. Even after the Chavín culture declined, their influence remained throughout the Andes. When Chavín de Huanta was rediscovered in the early 1900s, it helped us learn so much about Andean civilizations. For a long time, the site was hidden under dirt and plants. Local people knew about the ruins, but they thought they were built by mythical creatures or giants. It wasn't until archaeologists came that we realized how important Chavín de Huanta really was. Chavín de Huanta was first mentioned in writing by Europeans in the 1500s. But people didn't really pay attention to it until the 1800s. In 1873, an Italian archaeologist named Antonio Raimondi visited the site and made drawings. Julio C. Tello, a Peruvian archaeologist, is considered the father of Peruvian archaeology. In 1919, he led a trip to Chavín de Huanta, and that started many years of research. Tello found lots of artifacts that helped us understand the Chavín people's daily lives, rituals, and beliefs. He found carved stone sculptures, pottery with animal designs, and pieces of cloth. One of his most important discoveries was the Lanzon, a large stone carving of a god inside the old temple. The Lanzon became a symbol of Chavín de Huanta. Tello's work was very important for archaeologists who came after him. He was very careful with his work and showed how important it is to understand the context of a site. Tello taught us a lot about the Chavín culture, and research at Chavín de Huántar continues today because of him. After Tello's work, many other archaeologists and researchers have helped us understand Chavín de Huántar. Every new excavation, using better tools and science, teaches us more about this ancient culture. From studying the carvings to analyzing the pottery, researchers are putting together the story of the Chavín people. Some researchers are studying the role of sound in Chavín rituals. The tunnels and passageways in the old temples suggest they used sound to create special effects. Researchers are using computers to recreate the sounds of Chavín ceremonies to understand how they affected people. Other researchers are studying the materials used in Chavín art and architecture. By figuring out where the stone and paint came from, they can learn about ancient trade routes. This helps us understand how influential the Chavín were and how they connected with other communities. Studying the plants and animal remains found at the site helps us understand what they ate, how they farmed, and how they lived in their environment. By analyzing pollen, seeds, and bones, researchers can see what the environment was like back then. This shows how the Chavín adapted to their surroundings. High in the Andes Mountains, the ruins of Chavín de Huántar remind us of a lost world. We can't hear the sounds of their ceremonies anymore, but the Chavín people left behind amazing things, carved in stone, that still fascinate us. Their incredible buildings, made of stone, show how much they knew about building and how much they respected nature. The detailed carvings on the buildings show us their myths and beliefs. Jaguars, snakes, and birds of prey are all over their art. These images, full of meaning, show a world where humans and the supernatural were connected. The Chavín people, though gone, are an important part of history. Their art, architecture, and religion were important for later cultures in the Andes, including the Moche, Nazca, and Inca. The Chavín's influence spread far and wide, through trade and through people who traveled there for religious reasons. Their art, religion, and culture spread like seeds, growing in new places and becoming part of Andean identity. The Chavín knew how to use our senses to make us feel awe and connect with the divine. They used light and shadow to make their temples mysterious. They used water and stone to create special sounds in their sacred spaces. They created experiences that made people feel like they were in another world, a world between the physical and the spiritual. The rediscovery of Chavín de Huántar in the 1900s was very important for understanding Andean civilizations. Archaeologists have worked hard to excavate the ruins and understand the clues left behind, so we can learn about this amazing culture. Today, Chavín de Huántar is protected by UNESCO. It shows us how creative humans can be and how connected human history is. People from all over the world visit this remote site, drawn to its ancient mystery. When you stand among the ruins, you can almost hear the sounds of the past. The priests chanting, the drums beating, the pilgrims praying. The stones themselves seem to whisper stories to those who listen. They tell us about a people who looked at the stars and tried to understand their place in the universe. They respected nature and tried to live in harmony with the earth. Chavín de Huántar is more than just ruins. It reminds us how powerful human imagination is, how we can create beauty even when things are hard, and how connected we are across time and cultures. As we learn more about the past, we appreciate how rich and diverse human civilization is. The story of Chavín de Huántar is not just a story of the past, it is a story that continues to teach us new things.